Very short, I promise. My name is Jutta Allmendinger. Jutta is an abbreviation of Judith. In Allmendingen is a very tiny village close to Stuttgart. And my father comes from this little town, and therefore, his name Allmendinger. Well, my father has been an architect, and good daughters usually do what their fathers did. So I studied architecture first, and I got more and more interested how people live together. And this brought me to sociology. So I changed to sociology. And when I did my diploma, then I was asked to go to the United States. So I studied first 1 year in Madison, Wisconsin, primarily to learn everything about statistics, which was brilliant, but Madison was too small a city in one way or the other. So I applied to Harvard and I got admitted. And I started with Daniel Bell and David Reisman, and then a little bit later on with Orlando Patterson, and particularly with Richard Hackman. And once I got my PhD in 1988 there, Richard Hackman convinced me to become a member of the Harvard Business School, where I indeed taught for 1.5 years. And this was not what I really wanted to do, though I decided that I go back to Germany to get my Habilitation, because I was very much afraid that if I do not get this Habilitation, second book, then I can never ever return to Germany for me. So, and I'm always stuck in the US. So I returned actually to Berlin. I got a very good job at the Max Planck Institute, and after half a year, however, I got called to Munich University without this Habilitation. So I could have stayed in the US as well because I didn't need it. In Munich, I had a fantastic life for 10 years or something like this. It was cozy and it was in the middle of Schwabing. It was very, very nice. And after 10 years, I realized that it was becoming very, very boring. I mean, it was just, everything was so perfect in a way, the students, the colleagues. So I got bored and I thought, well, what can I do? And I had a little son, and I said, well, I probably should apply to the most terrible and awful place I can imagine in Germany. And this was the National Institute of Unemployment. And you probably know, I mean, it could not have been more different to Munich, actually. A high-rise building, everything extremely bureaucratic, awful, awful, awful. So I took the train, I applied. I was asked to wait for 3 hours, and then the major question was, what is Mr. Schröder in this very moment writing down as declaration, because he was just elected new chancellor. And I said, well, I'm not applying to become his press speaker. And then this guy, the head of the National Unemployment Agency, said, thank you very much, you may leave. And I was very proud, actually. So I took this train back. It's a 1-hour train from Nuremberg to Munich. And I said to myself, well, I did my very best to lead this Institute of Labor Market Research, but I do not want to, no. So when I arrived, just 1 hour later, I got this call of Mr. Gerson and Mr. Weise offering me this job. And this was probably the best time of my life, those 5 years where I was on leave from Munich in Nuremberg, heading this 500 people institute. But I was not allowed to work there longer than 5 years because the University of Munich didn't want to extend my leave. And this was a highly political job in a way. So I had to have a very big university whenever I wanted to publish papers which were not in line with the politics, federal politics or unemployment politics. So this brought me to Berlin, and in Berlin I'm now heading a non-university institute with about 600 people working on the social sciences. So it's composed of course, many lawyers, many people working in economics, a lot of social scientists, a a lot of political analysts and sociologists as well. And this institute gets bigger and bigger. And so 3 years ago, I created a new institute on internet and society, which I find extremely important. And I also created 2 huge new longitudinal data sets, one on education, which we now have, and I had this, and one of old age, which is actually an international longitudinal data set financed by the European Commission called SHARE, which I now also brought to Berlin. I'm also supervising the Berlin cleaning company, which is probably my most favorite job, working with all those garbage men, because women are not allowed to enter this profession. The work I'm presently doing is in particular on spatial inequality, in particular asking 2 questions. So how this spatial divide, or how those left behind places, if you want to call them, are connected to cultural cleavages, in particular right-wing extremism. This is an eminent topic, in particular in East Germany, as you probably may know, and as well to social inequality defined by education and by income aspirations. So this is the first topic. The second is that I work very much with politicians on rebuilding the German educational system. And the third one is that I continue to work on digitalization and social innovation, which are more than necessary in this context as well. In this year, I do as much political advice as I never did before, and probably never will do in the future, because I chair for Mr. Scholz, this is our Chancellor, the G7, in particular the GX, this is the Gender Advisory Committee of the G7. So I'm with all those foreign ministers and also interior ministers and all those heads of the G7 partner countries whenever they meet, bringing the gender perspectives back in. That was it.